One major highlight, definitely Giulio's presentation, the colleague from UNDP. So fascinating, inspiring, really, all the topics that he brought up. You know, because he has this very different approach of saying, forget all about best practices and documentation and all that, you know. Start experimenting, trying things, and then see what happens.
So imagine you have an option to go for dinner tonight. Actually, not to go for dinner, to get dinner prepared for you. And you have two options, right? One option is that you have a recipe maker preparing dinner for you. A recipe maker, what we do is basically we take a recipe, we go through single step by step, right? We took everything by the gram, we measure carefully, and then we produce dinner for you. Second option is the cook. The cook, whatever you have in your actual cupboard, he will take and will cough up a recipe for you, cough up a dinner for you, no matter what. Which one would you rather have?
The cook.
A cook, why?
Because you can do it, because it's surprising, because...
Surprise, yes. What else?
More exciting.
Exciting. What does the cook have that the recipe maker doesn't have?
Experience.
Experience, yes, there you go, right? The core of knowledge, right? Experience. He has these patterns in his brain that he can activate on demand, right? And I would argue most of our work looks like this. Unfortunately, when I ask my colleagues, well, how does the organization mostly treat you? Like a cook or a recipe maker? And I won't tell you what they answer. This is why I am so much against some of the traditional approaches to knowledge management, because they basically work under the assumption that all problems are a recipe. In our case, the absurdity of thinking that you can take a lesson from Afghanistan and plant it in Latin America and everything is going to work is just absolutely plain ridiculous. Another thing that we try to do quite consciously is to talk about our work at the beginning as opposed to the end. And this is a way to start engaging with and co-produce new tools and new products with people who might have solutions out there, which we might have not reached out before when we were mostly focusing on internal knowledge sharing. We basically open up our processes with the hope that people may come in and interact with us. My favorite example of this, does anybody know the story about Starbucks and how they started giving instructions to their staff? So they started by saying to all staff, you need to say welcome to the person that comes into the coffee place. Now guess what? There are some cultures when you actually introduce the person comes in, stranger, you say, welcome, my name is John. They get really freaked out, right? It just doesn't work. So Starbucks changed the rule from you need to say welcome to everybody to say you need to make the person feel welcome. And this is very, very different, right? It's moving away from prescriptions, from a recipe, to the cook type of measure. You trust your staff that they have enough intelligence to know what in their culture it means to make someone feel welcome, so they will adjust accordingly, which is actually, by the way, as you know, the high end of knowledge management is always the military, right? And the military acts exactly around this way, right? They give simple rules that people can interpret in their location where they are. The slogans we like to use is moving from macro content to micro content. So basically, start under the assumption that these days, in an age of information overload, lots of people will not spend hours and hours pouring through lengthy documents. So what do you do to provide different entry points for different people with different level of attention and different amount of time to actually interact with your content? So for example, you would produce a report, but at the same time you would release the data just in the same way so that people can interact with the data and play around with them. You would produce an infographic that summarizes in one simple chart the key messages that come out of a particular report. You would think about blogs as a way to summarize and synthesize some key messages from the same report. You would think about, for example, reports from the field with cameras, mobile phones, etc., to get feedback from people interacting with the data and with the approaches that you're trying to say, and provide you that kind of channel, backward channel, that before was so difficult to get. But now, because we have all these new tools, actually it's possible to get that type of feedback and actually get almost an instant evaluation of some of the knowledge products you're putting out.